American corporations, they've been expressing concerns, including those in Silicon Valley, about the impact on this travel ban. So what does it mean for business, Wall Street, and your pocketbook? Gene Marks joins us, a CPA with the Marsh Group and a columnist for the Washington Post. Gene, a lot of concern out in Silicon Valley and elsewhere about the impact on the employees of some of the largest corporations of our country.
Yeah, there really is, Eric. That statement that you just read out would have been really nice to have had a few days ago before this whole executive order, took place. Right now, the business community is very concerned. There are some industries, Eric, that are really dependent on immigrant workers that can do sort of unskilled work and skilled work that a lot of American workers haven't been able to fill those jobs. I mean, for example, the National Association of Home Builders, they did a survey of all their members back in December. 82% of them said that they're going to have a hard time finding workers to do construction jobs. And so because of that, with this kind of regulation coming through, the harder it gets to find people that can provide skills. 30% of contractors that are building homes, new homes, they are all immigrant born. And that's very, very important for that industry. They're not the only ones. The service industry as well, very reliant. And like you just mentioned, the technology industry. So just over the weekend, the CEOs from Microsoft, from Facebook, from Apple, from Google, they have come out against what President Trump's actions have been because they fear that it's going to cause them, an inability to get good skilled workers, to keep those good skilled workers working at their companies, whether they're in the U.S. or they're overseas. Google, in fact, has asked some of its foreign workers to come back to the U.S. because they're concerned about what the future will be.
Yeah, let me give you an
example.
You talk about that employee deficit. Look at the number of H-1B visas. You got 274,000 were issued in 2013, 1,220 to the 7 banned countries, 810 to Iranians, 280 to Syrians, 53 to Libyans. And you mentioned Google. Here's what, according to an email from the Wall Street Journal, Sundar Pichai, the head of Google, wrote in an email to the employees of Google saying, quote, "We're upset about the impact of this order and any proposals that could impose restrictions on Googlers and their families, or that could create barriers to bringing great talent to the U.S. It's painful to see the personal cost of this executive order on our colleagues." So that begs the question, what's the impact on some of these major companies, and what happens tomorrow on Wall Street in terms of their stock if suddenly they can't get the talent that they rely on or the talent that they want to have in order to accomplish their business?
Well, there's one big impact that it'll have on you and me, Eric, and that's actually costs. Because all of this type of thing that are going on right now is increasing the operating costs of companies to make sure that they can get those employees in. If they have unfilled jobs and things that need to be done, they can't find good skilled people to do it. That's going to increase their costs of operations. They're going to have to pay more for those skilled people to find them, even when they can find them. And if those companies are paying more, trust me, you and me and the average American consumer are going to be paying more as well. And as far as the impact on the stock market, Eric, I mean, right now, I think there's not enough information to know if that's going to cause the kind of remember, the stock market is built in pricing for the future, not in what's happened in the past. So and again, I'm not a stock prognosticator, but my expectation is that most companies, even the technology companies, are going to be keeping a very wary eye on what's going on. Will this make their investors run from them right away? I don't think so, and I don't believe it's going to have a big impact on stocks. However, if these types of orders, these types of actions continue to happen in such a chaotic way, it really does call into question the ability of our government to govern. It creates uncertainty. And if there's one thing that the business community does not like, the biggest thing that my clients have complained about over the past 8 years under President Obama was the uncertainty of what the government will do. And that's the one thing that President Trump should try to avoid.
Yeah, that had to do with taxes and Obamacare and everything else, and now we have some other issues, popping up certainly over this weekend. I mean, finally, Gene, you talked about the cost. You talk about these major, corporations. It is temporary, after all. In that statement that I read, the president indicates that it, potentially could be lifted, obviously, if the refugees and the others trying to come here actually fulfill all the security requirements. So, in 3 to 4 months, could it be finished?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they can get their act together. I mean, it does beg the question is, couldn't they have done all of this without making this complete stop of refugees coming in? You know, I mean, couldn't other ways have been done, you know, to avoid the chaos that we've seen over the weekends, you know? And that's the biggest issue that I'm talking to most CEOs and most of my clients are concerned about is it's not really what the government wants to do and the fact that they're having a temporary ban. It's just the way that they're going about doing it is causing, like I said earlier, too much uncertainty. And again, I think companies can swallow a little bit right now because the hope is growth in the future. But, you know, more actions like this, I think it does create a lot of concern among at least my clients.
All right, Gene. We'll see what happens in the opening bell tomorrow, as always. Thanks so much. Our